Hey everyone, it's Brandon Lee, host of the podcast Escaping Rock Bottom, Season 3. I have an amazing guest on with me today. I always tell people this. Whenever you hear somebody on Season 3 of the podcast, it's somebody that I believe in, a treatment center that I will go to bat for because I know the kind of program and the services that they're offering people. Because let me tell you this. Just like it isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to creating a program that may work for every addict, the same goes for a treatment center. One size does not fit all. There are some really amazing ones. And you know what? With every industry, there's an ugly underbelly, and not all treatment centers are created equal. But I just want to let you know that if you're listening or you're watching this podcast, any treatment center you see on this podcast, I am partnered with. They're partners with me at Art of Our Soul, so they send me their residents for art healing. But I partner with them because I believe in them. I would send myself or any of my friends to their treatment center. So with that, I want to bring in Bobby. He is the CEO of Springboard Recovery out in Scottsdale. Bobby, good to have you on the podcast.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Okay. I love Springboard, and I actually got introduced to Springboard, back in 2020 during the pandemic. We did kind of a special report on how the pandemic was starting to really impact people in recovery. We had some folks from Springboard on. You've kind of taken control of Springboard, but before we get into what Springboard is all about and the services that you guys offer and the program that you yourself have kind of redefined over there since taking control of it, I want people to get to know you. Where was Bobby born and raised?
Oh, Bobby's born and raised in Washington State. Okay. I lived there until I got into recovery. So
okay, Washington State. Okay, so what was your childhood like? What was it like growing up? Was it fucked?
Yeah,
mine too.
I mean,
yeah, sign me up for that one too. Yeah,
childhood for me, it was crazy. I grew up in kind of a hostile environment, I like to say. We were survivors. Single mom raised me and my sister. My father wasn't around. He was not yet in recovery, which I'm sure we might talk about later on in the story. But I was just a regular kid growing up in Washington, and life was kind of hard. Mom worked 6 days a week so that we could have what we needed. And, me and my sister a lot of times kind of had to take care of ourselves. So
it was a single mom situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Where was Dad at that time in your formative years?
At that time, I believe he was in Washington.
But not in your life.
Not in life.
And see, Bobby, right then and there, what people need to understand is that in and of itself is a traumatic event.
Yeah.
Okay, that in and of itself is traumatic for any child, to not have a dad who's present in your life. And your mom could be superwoman, right? She could be doing the best she can for you. It's still traumatic, right? Because all of us need a mother and kind of that fatherly figure, or just two parents. We need that support system around. So just missing that element, just missing that one element can be considered a traumatic event. So tell me then, what other things that you experienced maybe in your childhood that was a little difficult?
Domestic violence. I mean,
sure.
We were survivors. Like I said, we were a team, and my mom and my sister, and my mom was always trying to do the best that she could. And men were definitely in and out, and they weren't always super awesome to be around. And so
you saw a lot of violence.
Yeah, you see a lot of violence, and I think that just chaos was super normal for me. Getting thrown out of the house in the middle of the night and running to the police department because, my mom was getting beaten by somebody, or, getting woken up at 3:00 in the morning because this guy had left the house and she thought it was a safe time to get us in the car and, drive to another state so that we could stay at a family member's house until she felt it was safe. God. I mean, chaos, and that was just normal. It's crazy at the time. You talk about it now and you're like, that's fucking insane.
But at the time, you knew no different.
We just knew this is how life was. And, I remember one time we were looking to rent a house, and one of the bonus parts my mom was talking to her friend was that it was only a block away from the police department. So if something happened, we could get to the police department quickly, which is crazy because there was a night about 11 o'clock that my mom came into our rooms and grabbed us, and we had to run out of the street down in this small little town called Buckley and break into the police department, banging on the door, worried that this person was gonna get us.
What's so sad about that is that I work a lot with people who suffered domestic violence, and I even in one of my adult relationships was a victim of domestic violence. I too witnessed my parents go at it. they were married, but I watched them wrestle for guns and just saw a lot of violence as well. So it was kind of like, my therapist goes, yeah, well, it's real no doubt, Brandon, that in one of your relationships, you mimicked what you saw from childhood, right? Because chaos, from the outside, chaos is chaos. But if we don't heal from chaos, we will just recreate chaos later in life, because that is what we know. Even though we may not love it or like it, that's just what we know. And so, hearing that, your mom probably just had a lot of unhealed trauma from her childhood, right? And so when she became an adult, right, if you're unhealed from it, you almost recreate it and you pass it on, not even purposefully, right? Yeah. It's just unhealed.
I mean, my mom was a rock star. I mean, and I look back at it today, and she did the best that she could.
Absolutely.
And she was always just looking, like, we're always looking for love, and we're looking for somebody to fulfill our lives. And unfortunately, she had a bad picker. And in that situation, we kind of all went down this road. But the one thing my mom always did was show up for us. I mean,
right.
As best that she could. And I think later on when I got clean and sober, I was able to really go through and look at those things and not have like resentment and anger, but see that, she really did love me and my sister and did the best that she could.
That's super profound, Bobby, because I just recently forgave my mom, in the last 2 years.
It takes work.
It takes a lot, but what I can say is that she did the best she could. And what I had to finally see was my mom suffered trauma when she was a kid. She never shared it with me, but I know she did. And unfortunately, that generation just didn't seek access to therapy. They didn't.
It was weak.
It was weak because people looked at our parents' generation.
Tie your shoes, pull your by the bootstrap.
Damn right. That's exactly what she said. Get over it. Be stronger.
Stop crying.
Stop crying. Yeah. Right. Wow, what a different society has changed. We've finally taken a turn to heal.
Well, we're seeing. People are screwed up.
People are screwed up. Yeah. And so, I finally, 2 years ago, Bobby, I wrote my mom an email. I don't have a relationship with her, by the way. And I wrote her an email. I said, listen, we may not see each other in this lifetime again. I said, but I never want you crossing over to the other side, ever wondering or thinking, does your son hate you, or is he mad at you, or does he not love you? I said, I love you unconditionally, and I want you to know that I will always love you, even though we may not have a relationship. And I said, and I forgive you. Well, I got an email the next day, the way I ended it, saying, and I forgive you, but I was being very, very sincere. She goes, you son of a bitch, you forgive me? Why did I do? God complex. Still unhealed, but still unhealed. Yeah. But at least I know she did the best she could with what she had.
Right.
And she did the best she could. And for that, I thank her. My shaman tells me this, Brandon, do you love your life today? Today, like present day, December 22nd, or whatever the date is. Yes, Brandon loves my life is amazing today. And my shaman goes, then thank her. Because had you not had the mom you did, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing now. And you love your life today. You've healed from it. Be grateful for her.
Everything's a journey.
Everything's a journey. And it flipped that for me. Okay, so I love that. I love that. Because it's really good life lessons for people who are watching or listening. It really is. Because I don't have to harbor that resentment. Because if I did toward her, it's only going to harm me. It's not going to harm her. Yeah. It's going to hurt me. And I want, I say this too, is that you and I had both fucked up childhoods. Okay? Fuck it. Okay, we did. We couldn't fight back then. Okay? What happened to us sucked. But as adults, Bobby, guess what? We get to flip the script. We have the adult choice to say, I don't have to be a victim to what happened to me as a child for the rest of my life.
Well, and what makes us better equipped to look at somebody and help them through the journey where, because where I was at the beginning of my recovery, like I was definitely resentful and angry. And I used a lot of those tools to say, this is why I drank. This is why I used, because,
for sure.
I had this fucked up childhood.
But
then once you learn how to deal with it and you have somebody who's in early recovery and they're doing that same thing, when our story comes blurting out our mouth and it's dirty and it's got all the shit that they have, and you're like, but guess what? I'm happy.
Yeah.
Like I'm married. People trust me. Like I have a great relationship with my mom today. I don't have a relationship with my father, but that came from me learning how to be safe.
Yes.
And putting things in my life that were like, okay, there's either a relationship with a family member or there's safety and there's happiness. Right. And I choose this. And so you get all these choices and we get to teach those to other people. And I think that's the strength, right? We don't have to be broken.
No.
We don't have to be.
We don't have to be anymore. We can heal it. We can heal it.
It's fucking amazing.
It's amazing. My life's freaking amazing today.
Sorry,
what were your drugs of choice? I just have to ask you this.
Yeah.
What were your drugs of choice?
Oh God, you know what? Everything.
I call you a garbage pail kid.
Yeah.
It was like anything, anybody, whatever was around, I would definitely do.
Yeah, alcohol was always there. I mean, from the beginning.
Were you a drinker?
You know, it was just always there. It was always part of my day, right?
Okay.
Like, but I had series. You know, when I was a kid, I loved acid and mushrooms and marijuana. Yeah. And then, you know, I did a lot of ecstasy, which was, you know, a huge part of my early story.
Yeah.
And then I kind of went overboard with that. You know, I got really into raves when I was.
I was a raver.
Oh gosh,
I had the big Atari pants. You know those big flare bottom pants that people used to wear at raves? The Janko. Oh my gosh, yes. We used to go to raves in outdoors. Yeah. So like kids call them raves today. I'm like, okay, that's a club. It's indoors. I used to go to outdoor raves, like those Indian
big massives,
the 25, 30 in the middle, nowhere on Indian reservations where the feds couldn't break it up. Yeah, that was me.
Those were the days. So in Washington, in Seattle, we had a couple different things. We had raves, which were in like warehouses. Right. Gross as shit. I mean, God, sometimes you look back at what I did. I was like, what? For sure. Sitting on a dirty floor.
For sure.
And then I got to the point where like we would go out all weekend and we just would go overboard.
Oh, for sure.
And, you know, there were times where I didn't know if I was going to come back or if I had OD'd or, you know, what was ever. So I remember at like 19, I was like, okay, maybe ecstasy for the past 3 years needs to stop. But then I just started doing like a whole bunch of other things because we could still go out. And then at 21, I found cocaine. And it was fucking game on. I mean, it was everything I ever wanted. You know, I could drink, I could do drugs, I could stay up all night, I could, you know, get up the next day and be like, go. And, you know, 3 hours of sleep got just very normal for me. You know, I remember going to bed at 3 and being excited because, okay, I don't have to be to work till 7. So 3 to 6, that's 3 hours. Like, I can do that. You know what I mean?
I had to sleep for like 9 or 10 now. I need to see.
I'm asleep by 9:30, right? Like, you know, we're watching TV in bed and like, you know, my husband will be passed out.
Laugh. So it's amazing. It's hilarious. Like, I feel you on that. I was in New York City at the height of my drug addiction when I was 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, 19 too. And we used to go to bed on Saturday night at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. We'd wake up at 6 in the morning on Sunday and we'd go to Twilo, a nightclub in New York City at 6 a.m. on
Glamorous,
Sundays.
of course.
Like, wake up and people would be jogging, having their morning cup of coffee in the cafes in New York, and we'd be fucking tripping out on drugs, going to nightclubs on the east side, like just twacked out of our minds. Okay, so eventually you hit rock bottom, like as we all do, that wake up point. You know, that rock bottom. That everybody's rock bottom looks different. You can't. I mean, somebody's like, don't you see how screwed up your life is? I'm like, they don't see it yet.
I thought it was fabulously like winning at life. Yeah. And like looking back at it now, I was definitely failing and it looked like it was failing.
It was bad. How did you get out of that? How did you turn it around?
You know, I can remember. So, you know, my sobriety date is January 24th, 2008. And I remember I went to treatment that day and it was January 23rd at about 2:30 in the morning. And you know how you have these things, I don't know, you do, but I had these like lists of things that I would not do, right? Like that's just not me. That's not me. Well, those last 45 days, I checked every one of those fucking boxes, from prostitution to I mean, the whole, I mean, I could go down many roads of things that like you kind of come to the next day and you're like,
oh my God, did I really just do that?
I did that. I really did that. And, you know, taking a shower for 45 minutes because you can't like clean off
enough
the grossness that you feel inside of your soul. Right. And I remember it was 2 o'clock in the morning and I had ran out of drugs. And usually when I ran out of cocaine, I would drink to go to sleep and I didn't have enough alcohol and everything was closed. And I just remember laying in my bed. I had a mattress on the floor in this duplex that a buddy of mine were renting. And, you know, I just remember planning my death. You know, I remember laying there thinking I'm going to do it in the tub. And at the time I had been drinking wine. Well, I had always drank wine, but I'd buy these cheap gallons of wine. And I was scared to throw them away because I thought people would know that I was an alcoholic.
For sure.
And so my closet was stacked with these cheap bottles of wine. And I knew, okay, I got to figure out a way to get those to the garbage. I've got to do it in the tub because like that's probably going to be the best way. I had this drawer of all old baggies of cocaine, and I thought, okay, I got to clean that out because my mom would be like, I'm getting it done. I'm like, I'm going to die. And the reason that I was ready to die was because it stopped working. I could get high and I could get drunk and I could do drugs and I could use sex and all these things for a long time to feel better. And it just didn't make me feel better anymore. Yeah. There wasn't enough to like numb out, what was going on. I think drug addicts and alcoholics are pretty intense human beings.
For sure.
And we're looking for connection. And, today I have a higher power that I can kind of plug into and I feel charged up. For sure. And drugs and alcohol were that higher power for a long time. And I think anytime you use like artificial anything that's not actually like real, like your higher power, it diffuses over time. And drugs were just that, and alcohol was that, and sex was just that, and it didn't work. And so I wanted to die because I didn't know how to be happy.
Can I ask you this question? I feel like we've lived very similar lives, and we got sober around the same time too. Sex addiction was a huge claw onto me. And it was meth. It was just meth and sex. And I just like would hit up all these bathhouses, and I just remember I was actually talking to my shaman about this last night. I said, Toby, like, because I'm so free and I'm so happy now and I'm so light, right? And I truly never thought this was possible. I never truly thought this version of Brandon would be possible. And I was telling him, I was like, man, Toby, there was a time where I was sitting in the parking lot of this bathhouse in LA, like in the slums of LA, by the way. And I was crying in my Jeep, and I had a pipe in my hand, and I just said to myself, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to go in. I was like a zombie, like just watching these guys go in and out of this door, like into this place. And I'm like, I just don't want this anymore. Like, but at the same time, I remember vividly saying this to myself. I'm like, dude, this is going to be the rest of your life. That's how much I truly felt like I would never be able to stop. And I walked in like a zombie. That's how autopilot. Yeah. That's how much of a grip it had on me. But I can sit here and tell you now, through a lot of fucking work. Oh my God. But continuous work. Like I just did a shaman session every Tuesday for 2 hours. Like that's what it takes. Okay. But I'm not a sex addict anymore. Like to be able to say that and be like, oh my God, like I'm not. And it's so freeing though. Like it's so freeing to have this. And I want people to know, like, it can't get any worse than where I was at. Like, right. The only thing worse was death, and I was in a coma twice in 2 weeks on my deathbed. So I was there knocking on death's door. So it couldn't get any worse. And what I want you to know is like, dude, I'm here, and I'm not a sex addict anymore. And like, am I an intense individual? You bet your fucking ass I'm a pretty intense dude. But I'm not that anymore.
Yeah.
We change. We can change.
It was a huge part of the story. I mean, I think it is for a lot of gay men. I don't like to just blanket that.
No,
right?
It's huge.
But
it's huge.
I remember when I got sober, I had never
had sober sex
ever.
Me either.
And the first time it happened, I was a fucking mess.
I was worse too.
I shook and I got
shaking
sick.
Too. Yeah.
And the person was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like, God only knows, this, and so it's taken a lot of work. I mean,
because we have to rewire our brains. I mean, I asked even one of my fucking normie friends.
Yeah,
I was like, "Yo, when was the last time you had sober sex?" And they looked at me. I was like, "No, serious. I'm being dead serious. I'm talking. You didn't even have a glass of fucking wine at dinner. Okay, I'm talking fucking sober. Even some of them are like, wow, not even a glass of wine. No. So like when we have sex the way you and I had sex, right, tied to meth, right, we are essentially wiring our brains permanently to be like, you cannot have sex unless meth is attached to it.
Yeah.
Right. So then when we quit meth, sex doesn't know how to fucking operate.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait. I only know how to operate when I am attached to meth. So when you detach meth, sex doesn't know how. You have to truly reform and retrain yourself healthy ways to live.
Yeah.
And sex is one of them.
And I think I didn't fully, it wasn't until I met my husband today that I really was able to come to a healthy relationship with sex,
Yes.
with love,
Yes.
and that they can be together.
Yes.
And so, I'm very blessed. I mean, I have a wonderful husband today, and
Yeah.
we have just a very normal, relationship, and I'm grateful.
And your husband's a normie, right?
Yeah, he's a normie.
He's a normie.
Yeah.
I know.
He doesn't know Bobby. I always tell him, he's like,
Right,
if
right,
you
right, right.
met me in 2007,
never even have
you
been
would have walked
attracted to me.
right past
Right
me.
past you. He wouldn't even have said hello because they
Absolutely.
can sense our energy. No. He fell in love with the sober version.
Yeah.
Somebody, it's crazy. It's the most beautiful compliment. It's when I meet people, and I've been sober a long time. So as of you, right? So people in my life today have only ever known me sober. There's
Right.
very, very few people who saw the before and after. Very few. So everybody asked me, they're like, Brandon, seriously? Like, you can't have a glass of champagne with us. We're toasting at a wedding. Like, ready? They're like, you can't. Brandon.
Negative.
They're like, Brandon, this is the best part. Brandon, you are the most in control person
Yeah.
that I've ever met. Brandon, you are always so in control of everything. Like, you can have a glass of champagne. You'll be fine. I was like, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Because those words would have never been used to describe me. My nickname when I was a drug was Hurricane Brandon.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
I walk into a bar, people are like, oh, fuck.
Yep.
And I would go in and cause a fucking storm and then leave the place battered. And so, but that's a compliment, right? Is that when people only see us as this and they think of us in such different terms.
They also don't understand that a lot of people who have substance use disorders are like high functioning individuals. You know what I mean? Because we had to live multiple lives. Like I had to live like my drug life and I had to live like my not drug life where I had to be like, and then I had to live a family life and then I had to be like, there's all these things, and when you get rid of it, all of a sudden you're like, oh fuck, this is easy,
right?
Like you know what I mean? Because like we can focus in if we really do the work.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody has that, but a lot of people are high functioning, right?
Yeah.
Like,
super high functioning. But I also say this: like addicts are extremely smart people, smart and brilliant and artistic.
Well,
Like,
they're deep, right? Like
deep, layered.
Yeah, I was
Layered.
only a couple of
For sure.
years in recovery, and I watched this guy speak, and he said, like, the difference between me and my brother, because his brother wasn't in recovery and didn't have a substance use disorder, he goes, when I was 8 and I like did something and my mom like reprimanded me, like I would go to my room and I thought the world had ended. Like I thought she didn't love me. And my brother got in trouble for the same exact thing. And he's like, what the fuck is the problem? Get over it. Right. Like we're sensitive individuals and some people can think that's a weakness, but I really think it's this amazing gift for us to have really deep empathy for people and connect on levels that others just don't get. And I don't.
No, I'm with you 100% on that. And that transitions as, in the next 5 minutes as we begin to close. But that transitions, because I want people to get to know you first, because Bobby's going to be on the podcast quite a few times. And I wanted people to get to know you
Like,
first.
am I qualified? Did I use enough drugs?
Yeah, right. But here's the thing, right, is that we have this unique way to have compassion and empathy for the good, right, to help other people now. And I think that's what's so beautiful about you being, the CEO of Springboard Recovery, because you really are in charge of mapping out how a program should look like by wanting to help people. And I think that's important because there are some treatment centers that are so money driven, right? They're so money driven. And it doesn't have to be that way. And when you have a CEO who is part of a treatment center that will always have the patient experience first, man, you can change a lot of lives. So what are you guys doing? And what is your number one focus as the CEO of a place of Springboard? Like when you go to work and you create a program, what is that number one focus for you?
It's really easy. The number one focus is to be the best treatment center 100% of the time that we can be. And when I say that, it's not to say we're better than everybody else or we're doing things better or whatever, but it's that every person that works at Springboard has the same emotional reaction as I do. When someone walks through the door, we give them 100%. They walk in, is this the best intake? Is this the best psych assessment? Is this the best counseling session? Is this the best program? Is this program the best thing they're ever going to get? And that's just what we do from the beginning to the end. And it's not just patients, right? It's also employees. I mean, I'm very employee focused at Springboard. It's one of my it's my passion, because a lot of the people that work for us are in recovery, right? Like we have people, and I can go through name after name after name. Josh has been on this program, in some of the earlier podcasts, but I mean, seeing him grow and change his life from where he was to owning a house and having kids and being married, and seeing people like Dylan and Megan and all these people that work for me that work at Springboard, that I see their lives change and I feel empathy and want to see them succeed. They pass that on to patients. We're not this big corporation that doesn't care. And it doesn't mean that's bad. It just means our main focus is patients. And what we specialize is substance use treatment. And we stay really focused on that. And I think that's rare. There's a lot of other facilities all over the country that are doing a bit of everything. And for us, we really try to stay focused on just a robust program that offers things like, like what you're doing in your art practice. I mean, and the feedback from that has been amazing, because when they come here, like, this is treatment. Yeah. And we're like, yeah, this is you getting better. This is you learning how to do things in a way that are fun. Like a lot of people come back from your Saturday session and they're like, I haven't had fun for years. Yeah. You're like, and that right there, I think,
that makes my heart happy.
And it makes our heart happy to see that our patients get that type of thing, right? Like, and I think Springboard does. I mean, I can go through all the program modalities and all the bullshit. Right. Not bullshit, but it's just modalities. But the reality of it is,
treatment center has modalities.
We're the best. Yeah. And like I said, it's not cocky in the way that we're better than others. It's that when they walk in, is this the best?
And I can see that impact. I mean, I can see that impact when I call them my weekend crew, my Saturdays. When I see them, like, I can see them. I know when somebody is week number 1.
Yeah.
And then I see them on week number 2. I see that same group on week number 3. And then I see them on week number 4. I see a difference than that person who is fresh at Springboard. And then I see them in week 2. They're more comfortable. They're a little bit more outgoing. They're a little more engaging. And I see growth. I see people come out of their shells in my art studio. I see them grow, and I see them start to smile. And we pound the music. It's freaking amazing. Yeah. It is freaking amazing. But it's not just, I know the work that they're doing Monday through Friday at Springboard, because then I see them on Saturday, and I see the growth that they're having by the time they hit my art studio the next time. Yeah. They're asking me questions. They're like, hey, B, come over here and look at this. Like, should I add this color? Like, they're more engaged, right? It's because they're starting to come out of that little cocoon, right? And they're starting to grow as humans and grow in that sober life, and I love it. All right, so we're going to wrap up now. If you've been watching this podcast, you've seen on the lower part of your screen all the information that you need to reach out to the folks over at Springboard, whether it's intake. You guys do IOP as well?
Correct.
For IOP. So if you want to learn more about Springboard, you can pick up the phone, call their intake number, or you could check them out online. You could see the website right there. Bobby is the CEO of Springboard. Bobby, we're going to have you back, and we'll continue the conversation about different other modalities and different things that are going on at Springboard throughout. But I'm super grateful to have you guys as partners too.
Thanks. It's been amazing. I mean, we're very grateful to have this for our patients. So
yeah, it's really awesome. Bobby over at Springboard. We will see you back here for the next episode.